In this chapter, we're going to talk about the following 10 keywords: clamor, literate, hinder, utmost, legacy, impartial, mirth, meditate, prominent, and interrogate. Let's start with the first keyword, clamor. Now, if you look at this picture, you can see that these people are shouting out loud as if they are demanding something or they're asking for something, but they're doing it in a very noisy way. Could this be the meaning of clamor? Let's find out. Now, clamor is an intransitive verb. That means we cannot use an object with it. If people are clamoring for something, they are demanding it in a noisy or angry way. And this is used a lot in journalism, so you find it in newspapers or reports. For example, competing parties clamoring for the attention of the voter. Now, clamoring, that means they're demanding it in a noisy or in an angry way. So the next time you remember this picture of these people shouting out loud, remember the word clamor and what it means. And now for the next keyword, literate. Now you look at this picture and you can see students in their classes. They're writing something with this typical apple next to them, and the whole idea is about knowledge and learning. But how does that relate to the word literate? Let's find out. Now, literate is an adjective. Someone who is literate is able to read and write. For example, over 1/4 of the adult population are not fully literate. That means not all of them, this 1/4 we're talking about, they cannot read and write properly. And literate can also be used in a different context. If you describe someone as literate, you mean that they are intelligent and well educated, especially about literature and the arts. And that is a positive word we use to show our approval. For example, scientists should be literate and articulate as well as able to handle figures. And synonyms for literate in this context are the words educated, lettered, learned, and cultured. And literate can also be used in a different context. If you describe someone as literate in a particular subject, especially one that many people do not know anything about, you mean that they have a good knowledge and understanding of that subject. For example, head teachers need to be financially literate. Not all people are knowledgeable about finance, but head teachers need to have a good knowledge and understanding of finance. And finally, we can say computer literate as an adjective. Now, if someone is computer literate, they have enough skill and knowledge to be able to use a computer. So the next time you remember this picture of these students in the classroom, remember the word literate and what it means. And now for the next keyword, hinder. Now you look at this picture, there is a gate, but obviously the gate is locked. So if you want to go to the other side, that is an obstacle. That is something that is stopping you from getting to the other side. So maybe that is something that is hindering you. Is that the meaning of hinder? Let's find out. Now, hinder is a verb. If something hinders you, it makes it more difficult for you to do something or make progress, just like this lock on the gate. For example, does the fact that your players are part-timers help or hinder you? That question is obviously being asked to a coach. His players are part-timers, so they're asking him if that is okay with him, if that helps or if that hinders, that makes it difficult to make progress in his situation. And hinder is used in a different context as well. If something hinders your movement, it makes it difficult for you to move forward or move around. For example, a thigh injury increasingly hindered her mobility. It made it difficult for her to move around. So the next time you remember this picture of the locked gate, remember the word hinder and what it means. And now for the next keyword, utmost. Now we can see this young lady trying to climb a mountain. And this kind of feat requires a lot of concentration, strength, and endurance. So how does that relate to the word utmost? Let's find out. Now, utmost is an adjective. You can use utmost to emphasize the importance or seriousness of something or to emphasize the way that it is done. So obviously we use it to emphasize things. For example, it is a matter of the utmost urgency to find out what has happened to these people. We can say it is a matter of urgency, but the utmost urgency, we are emphasizing the urgency of the situation. Another example, utmost care must be taken not to spill any of the contents. It needs to be kept a secret. And utmost care, we're emphasizing that. And synonyms for utmost are the words greatest, highest, maximum, or supreme. And utmost can be used in a different context as well. If you say that you are doing your utmost to do something, you are emphasizing that you are trying as hard as you can to do it. For example, he would have done his utmost to help her, of that she was certain. And synonyms for utmost in this context are the words best, greatest, maximum, or most. So the next time you remember this young lady trying to climb the mountain, remember the word utmost and what it means. And now for the next key word, legacy. Now if you look at this picture, we have two young girls with an old lady. Maybe she is their grandmother. And if we're talking about grandparents and grandchildren, we usually think about the things we take from our grandparents. And it's not just about the money we inherit from our grandparents or something like that. We're talking about the things we learn, the culture we have from them. Could that be related to the word legacy? Let's find out. Now, legacy is a countable noun. A legacy is money or property which someone leaves to you when they die. For example, you could make a real difference to someone's life by leaving them a generous legacy. And synonyms for legacy are the words bequest, inheritance, endowment, or gift. Now, a legacy can be used in a different context as well. A legacy of an event or period of history is something which is a direct result of it and which continues to exist after it is over. For example, the legacy of inequality and injustice created by apartheid. And synonyms for legacy in this context are the words repercussion, result, fruit, and consequences. So the next time you remember this picture of these two young girls with their grandmother, remember the word legacy and what it means. And now for the next key word, impartial. You look at Lady Justice here, blindfolded, to symbolize the idea that justice does not take sides. It is objective, it is fair, it is just all the time. And maybe it is impartial. If we know the meaning of the word, it might be also a word we can use to call justice, or how it should be. But let's find out. Now, impartial is an adjective. Someone who is impartial is not directly involved in a particular situation and is therefore able to give a fair opinion or decision about it, like a judge. For example, as an impartial observer, my analysis is supposed to be objective. And synonyms for impartial are the words neutral, objective, detached, and just. And the noun from impartial is impartiality. For example, a justice system lacking impartiality by democratic standards. And synonyms for impartiality are neutrality, equity, fairness, and equality. And we can add an ly to use impartial as an adverb. It becomes impartially. For example, he has vowed to oversee the elections impartially. So the next time you remember this picture of Lady Justice blindfolded, remember the word impartial and what it means. And now for the next key word, mirth. Now you look at the picture and you can see this woman, and obviously she is very happy. So how does that relate to the word mirth? Does it have to do with happiness? Let's find out. Now, mirth is an uncountable noun. Mirth is amusement which you express by laughing. And that is a literary word. For example, that caused considerable mirth amongst students and sports teachers alike. And synonyms for mirth are the words merriment, amusement, fun, and pleasure. So the next time you remember the picture of this woman being happy, remember the word mirth and what it means. And now for the next key word, meditate. Now you look at this woman, she's probably doing yoga or something like that, but obviously she is so quiet, so still, trying to contemplate the world around her or to think about the world around her from the inside. Does that have to do with the word meditate? Let's find out. Now, meditate is a verb. If you meditate on something, you think about it very carefully and deeply for a long time. For example, He meditated on the problem. He thought about it for a very long time, very carefully. And meditate can also be used in a different context. And that is exactly like what we saw in the picture. If you meditate, you remain in a silent and calm state for a period of time as part of a religious training, or so that you are more able to deal with the problems and difficulties of everyday life. For example, I was meditating and reached a higher state of consciousness. And synonyms for meditate in this context are the words reflect, think, consider, and contemplate. So the next time you remember the picture of this woman actually meditating, remember the word meditate and what it means. And now for the next key word, prominent. Now you look at this picture and you can see this palace. It's so beautiful, so big. It's kind of a landmark. But can we also call it prominent? What does prominent mean? Let's find out. A prominent is an adjective. Someone who is prominent is important. For example, we say a prominent member of the Law Society, or the children of very prominent or successful parents. And synonyms for prominent are the words famous, leading, top, or chief. And also we can use it with things. Something that is prominent is very noticeable or is an important part of something else, like the picture we saw, which is a very important part of the place where it is. For example, here the window plays a prominent part in the design, and we can say prominently as an adverb. For example, entries will be prominently displayed in the exhibition hall. So the next time you remember the picture of this palace, remember the word prominent and what it means. And finally, we have the keyword interrogate. Now, you look at the picture and you can see this policeman looking skeptically at this man and probably asking him some questions about something. Maybe this man is a suspect or just a witness, who knows? But the thing we know for sure is that this policeman is going to ask this man questions. Could that mean that he is going to interrogate him? Let's find out more about the word interrogate. Now, interrogate is a verb. If someone, especially a police officer, interrogates someone, they question them thoroughly for a long time in order to get some information from them. For example, I interrogated everyone even slightly involved. And synonyms for interrogate are the words question, ask, examine, and investigate. Interrogator is the countable noun, is the person who does the interrogation. For example, I was well aware of what my interrogators wanted to hear. So the next time you remember this picture of the policeman, remember the word interrogate and what it means. And that's all for this chapter.